Greetings to all of you. I'm recording this video on March 3rd, and as we move into March, this is an incredibly powerful time of change that we're in. There is so much happening astrologically this month, so much that is impacting us energetically and at all levels, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I want in this video to focus primarily on the energies of this upcoming full moon and total lunar eclipse on March 14th. But we need to understand it in the context of these other shifts that are also happening. First of all, this March, we have both this total lunar eclipse on March 14th and a partial solar eclipse on March 29th. So we're in the eclipse season. We have at the end of the month Neptune moving into Aries. We have Venus in retrograde. That started today and will go through April 11th. We have Mercury retrograde starting March 16th and going through April 7th. We also know that the end of March is the end of the Kali Yuga. That is that time in the Yuga cycle, the processional cycle, when we go through this time of getting pulled into paradigms of separation, of disconnection from our deeper understanding of our connection with each other and all that is, when we get caught in patriarchal power over paradigms and lose our remembrance of who we really are and what we're capable of with our consciousness. And this period of being out of balance and in this lower level of consciousness is coming to an end at the end of March. And as I said in my earlier video, it is incredibly significant that we're also now seeing a reactivation of the galactic center. And the images from the Webb telescope are showing us that the galactic center is flaring and flashing energies to us. I'll put the link below so that you can see more information about that. And Bibhu Dev Misra, the author of Yuga Shift, has written about, he predicted actually that in 2025 or shortly after that, the galactic center would reactivate, and that those energies, those cosmic energies coming to us, in addition to the solar energies that we're experiencing in this year of the solar maximum, are going to be activating our dormant DNA, are changing us physiologically as we're moving into becoming Homo luminous ones, the new humans. But it's also a significant part of what is activating our rapid movement into higher consciousness, into ascending consciousness, into this ability to move from being mired in this third dimensional reality and these patriarchal power over destructive paradigms into these rapid shifts into fifth dimensional consciousness, into the vibration and energy of love and wisdom and alignment with cosmic consciousness. Remember that the galactic center is our source. It is that black hole, the womb from which our galaxy is birthed. And as it's activating these powerful energies that are coming to us, according to Bibhu Dev Misra, it will activate our ascending consciousness, and anything not in resonance with those frequencies and vibrations of the galactic center, of our source, of cosmic consciousness, will collapse and fade away. As he has said in a recent Facebook post, all structures and ideologies based on the dense Kali Yuga energies of greed and lies, selfishness and hatred, will be disrupted and transformed. The pure vibrations of unity and love will cleanse and renew our planet. We are in a powerful time of purification and change and movement into ascending consciousness. And the powerful energies of Pisces, so prominent in this stellium we've had in Pisces with the new moon, continues to be active in March. And we move into this full moon total eclipse with the sun in Pisces opposite the moon in Virgo, and the lunar nodes, north node in Pisces, south node in Virgo. We are being activated to clear and cleanse what we need to release to move into this higher consciousness. But as we're in this intense time of change, we are also seeing the resistance to this end of the Kali Yuga. And we are seeing the most extreme shadow aspects of our power over patriarchal paradigms playing out as they're in their final gasp. And I think part of the theme of this upcoming full moon, and we'll look at the chart in a minute, is the importance of our aligning with the power of love versus the love of power. And that part of this purification and transformation that we're in an accelerated way this month is to release those ways in which we get caught in those power over paradigms, and to open our hearts more and more fully to that alignment with the energy of the love and wisdom of the cosmos that can come through us, transforming us and transforming our world. So let's look at the energies of this full moon and the total lunar eclipse and what they're speaking to in guiding us in this transformational process. Let's look initially at the energies of this full moon and then talk about what the meaning of this total lunar eclipse is in light of those energies. You can see that the full moon is occurring with the sun at 23 degrees of Pisces opposite the moon at 23 degrees of Virgo. And we continue to have all of this powerful energy in Pisces, particularly with the sun conjunct Saturn, conjunct the North Node, conjunct Neptune. That energy of Pisces is guiding us into compassion, guiding us into that energy of love, guiding us into remembrance of our spiritual nature and our oneness with all that is. It's significant that all three transpersonal planets are very active at the time of this full moon. Neptune is conjunct the sun, opposite the moon. Pluto is in an out of sign trine with the moon and sextile with the sun. Uranus is in a trine with the moon, sextile with the sun. Those three transpersonal planets are guiding us in that transformation of our sense of self and our consciousness. Uranus is guiding us into clarity and to see how we are living in our embodiment, in our relationship with the earth. It's bringing more clarity and bringing into the light of consciousness what needs to be revealed so that we see the ways in which we've been out of balance with what is in right harmony with each other and with the earth. It's bringing that disclosure and clarity to help us shift and change and release the patterns from the past. Pluto in Aquarius is guiding us into those Aquarian paradigms of interconnectedness, of justice, of equality, of openness to diversity, of fairness, of collaboration and compassion in community. It's supporting us and empowering us in moving into those new forms. And Neptune in the final degree of Pisces is layered. There are many aspects to that, and it's so powerfully at work in this full moon. And I really see that 29th degree of Pisces as a shamanic degree. It's guiding us in looking at how we are in a transformational process. It's holding that energy of the end degree of one sign as it's about to move into a new sign. And by the end of March, Neptune will move into Aries. But it is guiding us now in both, as I said in my last video, helping us to remember and reclaim the wisdom of the age of Pisces as we're moving into the age of Aquarius. But I think it is also guiding us to look at what we need to clear in ourselves, both from what we've carried emotionally or in our unconscious that needs to be cleared so that we can move into that energy of love and compassion and alignment with our soul self. I do believe that Saturn in Pisces, as it's moving closer and closer into connection with Neptune, is helping us stay grounded in our spirituality, to come into alignment with who we are as soul selves, to find our center in and grounding in the midst of the turbulence of this time of change that we're in. And remember, the lunar nodes are what are we working karmically? And with the North Node in Pisces, we're being called into that spiritual transformation, into that purification and releasing of what we need to release in order to move into higher consciousness. I do believe the energy of this full moon is so much about our being guided into aligning more and more fully with our higher consciousness and with the power of love. Rumi, that mystic poet who writes so eloquently about the meaning of love, and this is love not in an emotional or sentimental sense. As Rumi would say, love is not an emotion, it is your very existence. For those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. And Rumi has also said, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I think that is a very powerful quote, guiding us to see the meaning of this full moon and total lunar eclipse. Let me read that again. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. When we're in a lunar eclipse, the sun, earth, and moon are in alignment, such at that time of the full moon, the earth's shadow is cast across the face of the moon, blocking the sun from illuminating the moon. This total lunar eclipse is calling us to see our own shadows, individually and collectively. It's a time to really reflect and look at those shadow aspects of ourselves. What is it that is blocking us from fully taking in the love of the cosmos and our alignment with that divine love? When we really embrace the meaning of Pisces, it is that awareness that we are held in the compassion and love of the cosmos, that those are the energies that run through our galaxy. I truly believe that the meaning of Aquarius and the water bearer pouring the waters from the urn to the earth is reminding us that we are receiving and taking in these living energies of the love and wisdom of the cosmos that is there for us. That can help us cleanse ourselves and clear these blocks and barriers that have kept us from that energy and power of love for ourselves, for each other, for the earth, for our remembrance that we are a part of all that is. Then we can come back into that experience of the sacredness of communion and connection and community with each other, with the earth, with our galactic family, with all that is. But this lunar eclipse is saying, what are the shadows? What are the wounds? What are the blocks that are holding you back from fully receiving that love and light from the sun, from the cosmos, to embody it, emanate it, live it, be empowered by it? I really think this full moon is supporting us in seeing those blocks and clearing them, but also seeing those shadow aspects of humanity, those shadow aspects that we've lived out in this Kali Yuga period on the earth, these destructive paradigms of power over and separation, disconnection from each other and from source. We are seeing those paradigms playing out very powerfully on the planet right now. And that love of power and need for power, that power over dynamic, fundamentally comes from either an underlying narcissistic wound or an over identification with ego. And those two overlap. But often when you see this quest for power, for prestige, for control, for wealth, it's coming out of an underlying lack of a deeper sense of self-worth and comes from an inner emptiness, a lack of experience of feeling seen and loved for who we are. Therefore, we have to seek these external ways to shore up that sense of self, to feel important, to feel valuable, to feel special, to feel powerful and in control. At the root of that need for power and power over is fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of loss, fear of mortality, fear of inadequacy, of vulnerability, or of powerlessness. That narcissistic wound is often the underlying issue beneath that love and need for power. But it also is about being over-identified with ego. It is the ego that's terrified of loss of control, that is frightened of mortality. Therefore, it needs to do everything it can to feel in control, to shore up that sense of power and of security in order to fend off the fear of death. So that need for power, love of power, can never actually be fulfilled by conquest, by wealth, by asserting control, by destruction, by acting out that power over. It's never enough to actually absolve that fear. It's ultimately fear-driven and ego-driven. And because we're in a time of chaos and transition and insecurity, it can activate for all of us a sense of fear and vulnerability. But when we can come back to center, come back into that alignment with our soul self, and that remembrance that we are held in the love and wisdom of the cosmos, then we're not afraid and we trust this transition and transformation that we're in. But those who are caught in fear and mired in that identification with ego and that need for power tend to cling to it even more intensely. In ancient Egypt, there is the story of Osiris and Set. Osiris, the benevolent ruler and leader, with his partner Isis, the two of them in alignment with their soul selves, living out of that right relationship with spirit, with each other, with the earth, fostering that sense of love and harmony and balance as they were leading the people. But their brother Set was jealous and envious of their position of leadership. He longed for power and that sense of power over. And the story of what unfolds is the story of his ongoing effort to kill Osiris, to destroy him, to usurp his position, to have that power. And to have that power and prestige so he could shore up his sense of self. And it leads to destruction, and it leads to conflict, and it leads to turmoil among the people and turmoil in the leadership. And that is what we're witnessing in the world right now. And for the ancient Egyptians, the energy of an eclipse is the energy of Set, of chaos, of storminess, of those things that block us from being in right relationship with each other, in right relationship with the cosmos. Those things that, as Rumi would say, are the barriers that block us from living in that energy of love and light of higher consciousness. This lunar eclipse is a wake-up call. It is showing us our shadow aspects, guiding us to be in that inner reflection, to see what blocks us personally from that energy of love, to help us release those barriers, to open to the love of the cosmos, the love that's there for us to absorb and to then emanate into the world, and that light of consciousness that is guiding us into ascended consciousness. Coming back to the chart, I think, again, with these outer transpersonal planets so powerfully at work, they're calling us into clarity, calling us into transformation, calling us into Neptune and Pisces, releasing what we need to release so that we can absorb that love of the cosmos. The power of love is what we're being called into, and what we're being asked to release is that need for power, that longing for control. Looking at some of the other planetary bodies at work during the time of this full moon, it's very significant that the full moon is in a yod, two quincunxes, with Chariklo at 19 degrees of Aquarius and Chiron and Erizina at 21 degrees of Aries and 24 degrees of Aries. I think this is significant in that When you have a yod, you're meant to work the base and then channel that at the focal planet, in this case, the full moon. Cheroklo is supporting us in holding that energy of healing and space for us to look at what is blocking us. What are those barriers from our holding that energy of love for ourselves, for each other? Remember, Cheroklo is that healing centaur that holds space to support us in feeling seen and heard and held in whatever those wounds are, whatever it is that needs those shadow aspects of ourselves that need to be brought into the light of consciousness in order to clear. How do we, Chiron and Aries, heal our own sense of self and clear those out of balanced Aries energy of the need for power and control? And Arizina is guiding us to step out of those out of balanced Aries patterns, to follow our own unique creative path, to be seeing who we uniquely are and holding that in the healing energy of compassion and love. Remember that the centaurs are those healing energies that are guiding us in how we need to heal different aspects of ourselves. The primary centaurs, and Melanie Reinhardt has written extensively about this, are Chiron, Cheroklo, Pholus, and Nessus. Chiron is that healing centaur guiding us to see what are those core wounds that we carry that need to be healed for us to come into the wholeness and fullness of who we are and our own healing gifts. And now in Aries, it is guiding us to heal our sense of self. And in its conjunction with Arizina, to know that we can move into the uniqueness of who we are, step off the conventional path, honor our own unique creative expression and creative gifts. Cheroklo is that healing centaur who, when Chiron was wounded, held space for him and supported him and heard him and brought love and compassion to him to help support him in healing. And she's bringing that energy to us now in Aquarius, helping us be in healing community with and for each other, helping us hold sacred space for each other. It's part of what I love in this community is we can hold that energy of love and compassion with and for each other. Pholus is that healing centaur that, as Melanie Reinhardt says, is about the lid comes off. What needs to be cleared and seen and resolved to come to healing and resolution. And Pholus and the other centaur Nessus have a lot to do with ancestral wounds and the trauma that gets passed on generation after generation. And interestingly, Nessus has a different lineage than the other centaurs who hold those healing gifts. Nessus actually comes from the lineage of centaurs coming from Ixion. Ixion is that character in Greek mythology who so operated out of his own longing for power, need for control, his impulsivity, reactivity, not caring about the consequences of his actions. And it's significant that at this time, as I've talked about in earlier videos, Pholus and Quawar are right there by Ixion, saying it's time, Capricorn, for those structures of power over, of abuse of power to end. And for Pholus to help take the lid off that, help us heal, to come back into balance and harmony. Quawar. So all of the healing centaurs are actively engaged at the time of this full moon. We have Cheroklo and Chiron in this powerful yod with the full moon. We have Nessus conjunct the sun opposite the moon. And we continue to have Pholus in this powerful configuration with Ixion, the Kuiper Belt object, and Quawar, another Kuiper Belt object. Pholus is there taking the lid off, seeing how these patterns of abuse of power get carried over generation after generation in our ancestral lineage, and it's time for that to heal. And Pholus is supporting us in healing that in order for us, Quawar, to come back into balance and harmony with each other and all that is. And this combination is in a powerful square now with both Venus and Mercury, supporting us in how we're changing those patterns in our relationships, Venus, in how we think and see the world around us, Mercury. It's significant that Venus is in retrograde, has been since March 3rd, will be until April 11th, guiding us to reflect on our relationships and those out of balance patterns in our close relationships. Mercury will go retrograde shortly after this full moon and then be retrograde until April 7th. It's guiding us to turn inward. Mercury retrograde is about being in a process of reflection and introspection to be able to see those ways of thinking that are out of balance. But then Nessus is also actively involved. And what's significant about Nessus is it has a different lineage than the other healing centaurs. Nessus is actually a centaur that comes from the lineage of centaurs birthed through Ixion. Remember that Ixion in the Greek story was lusting after Hera, Zeus's wife, and he goes to try to rape her, but Zeus, realizing what's happening, protects Hera and sends a cloud being to make it look like Hera to get Ixion caught in that illusion. And he rapes her, and out of that is birthed this lineage of centaurs who are not carrying that healing energy of the centaurs that we see with Chiron, Pholus, Chariklo, but this energy of impulsivity, reactivity, operating out of instinct, out of ego, like Ixion. And the story of Nessus is that Nessus was this centaur who would help ferry people across the river. And Heracles comes. Nessus carries Heracles' wife across the river and then lusts after her and wants to rape her. And Heracles across the river sees this happening and targets Nessus with a poison arrow and mortally wounds him. As he's dying, he says to Heracles' wife, who's now beside him, "Take my blood. This will support you if Heracles ever becomes unfaithful, to keep him committed to you." So she takes that blood and Nessus dies. Years later, when she is seeing Heracles beginning to act in a way that's unfaithful to her and feels her relationship is at risk, she takes that blood and puts it on his robe. And Heracles puts on the robe and realizes this is poison. And he goes into intense pain and eventually throws himself into a fire to kill himself. So the betrayal and the impulse of Nessus to violate Heracles' wife leads to Heracles killing him which then leads to Nessus reacting back and causing Heracles' death. And it's such an example of how these karmic issues and these ancestral traumas play out generation after generation. Destruction, reactivity, effort for power over or control or rape or conquest. And then it leads to more conquest, power over, destruction, violation, betrayal. And as Melanie Reinhardt would say, the meaning of this centaur is the buck stops here. That where Nessus is calling us to look at what do we need to face karmically? What ancestral wounds do we carry that we need to clear so they don't continue on perpetuating this trauma? This is where we are on the planet right now. We are being called individually and collectively to see our shadow, to see those ways that we get caught in fear and the need for power or the love for power, rather than opening our hearts to that vulnerability and openness to the power of love that can heal us, transform us, guide us into higher consciousness, and guide us into right relationship with ourselves, with each other, with all that is. This is the meaning of this full moon. It's calling us into opening our hearts, moving into higher consciousness, embracing that love that's there for us to heal us, to transform us, to allow us then to become vessels of love and emanate that out to others. Love not that's coming from sentimentality, love that isn't about feeling a certain emotion, love that is about a way of being. It is about aligning with our soul selves and that awareness that we are at one with the love of the cosmos, that it flows in us and through us, it surrounds us, and we can become an expression of that. And the power of love is not about accommodating others. It's not about acquiescing in relationship. It is about aligning with love and truth and wisdom. It is about standing in the power of love that is the power of truth and being in right relationship, so that we're in right relationship with ourselves. True love is not about overextending yourself or being overly protective of yourself. True love is about holding that honoring of your own feelings and needs, who you are as a person, and being able to hold that energy of love and compassion and truth and wisdom in relationship with others. Love is about daring to speak the truth, to be in alignment with right relationship. It isn't about conquest or power over or being superior to someone else or getting what we need from them. It's about our capacity to hold that unconditional love for ourselves, that unconditional love for others that has no expectation of a particular outcome, but is about being in alignment with right relationship, with truth, with justice, with compassion, with love. This is what we're being called into. That is the power of love, and how we can emanate that and live that to move into these paradigms of the Aquarian age that are about being in right alignment with the self, to be in right relationship with others, out of that alignment with our soul selves, with cosmic consciousness, with the love and wisdom of the cosmos. As we're seeing the final gasp of the Kali Yuga paradigms, of power over, of selfishness and greed and destruction and the need for power and control. We need to realize that the solution to that won't come from outside of us. It will come from within us. As we are able to heal those wounds within ourselves, as we are able, as this full moon is calling us to heal those ancestral wounds that we still carry, as we are able to clear our own barriers to that love of the cosmos coming to us to heal us, then we heal, then we align with that power of love, then we can align with each other, forming this soul tribe and say, enough, no more to the power over dynamics. Stand up to the destruction and to the injustice and to the distortions. Then we can be in the power of love, which cannot be undermined by the need for power and the love of power. That alignment with the soul self is stronger than the ego and that fear-driven need for power. Part of what's extraordinary when we're in that power of love is we have courage. We live from our hearts with courage and move beyond the fear of the outcome, the fear of our mortality, to be in that truth. We have the power of love with us, within us, guiding us to change ourselves, to heal and transform, and to change the world. Let's look now at where these energies are in the sky at the time of this full moon. As you can see, the Sun, conjunct Saturn, conjunct Neptune, will be here in the stars of Pisces, close to the head of the fish along the ecliptic, and between the stars of Pisces and Cetus the whale. I think part of the meaning of this is that as we're called into that higher meaning of Pisces, opening to the compassion and love of the cosmos, aligning with our soul selves to be in that higher consciousness, we are needing to heal and clear what's beneath the surface. That Cetus the whale represents not only the wisdom of the deep, but it can also be what's in the depths of our own unconscious that we need to heal and clear. What are those things that we tend to get caught in that block us from seeing ourselves or others clearly? Remember that part of the meaning of a total eclipse is not only are we seeing our shadow aspects on the face of the moon, but we are seeing what we tend to project out onto others because of what's unresolved within us. And we are being supported in bringing that into the light of awareness to heal and clear. The moon at the time of this full moon is between the stars of Leo, moving into the stars of Virgo, and it's right at that wing of Virgo, the harvest goddess. It's that the meaning of that is that we need to connect to spirit, to that higher consciousness, to support then what we bring into form, Virgo, that can then be of service to others. So there's a very shamanic energy to this full moon of being between the worlds, of honoring this liminal time that we're in, this time of healing and transformation. And going back to the chart, again, we see that liminal time being particularly accentuated with Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. And part of the meaning of that degree is we become what we visualize. This is such a powerful time at this full moon to look at what we project, what those shadow aspects of ourselves are, to clear them, to be in that alignment with our soul selves, with that alignment with love and the power of love and of higher consciousness. So that shapes who we are and what we are becoming. And the meaning of the Sabian symbols for this full moon so resonate with these themes that we've been talking about. And I'll put the link to the website below that I'm getting the Sabian symbols from that are really in alignment with Dane Rudger's work in looking at the meaning of these symbols. The meaning for the moon at 23 degrees of Virgo, this is the image, Mary and her little lamb, meaning, as Rudger would say, the need to keep a vibrant and pure simplicity at the core of one's being as we meet the tests of existence. It's about coming into that purity of being from the heart and operating out of non-violence, out of compassion, out of that capacity to be in right relationship, rather than out of fear or reactivity or power over. The meaning of the Sabian symbol for the sun at 23 degrees of Pisces, the image is on a small island surrounded by the vast expanse of the sea. People are seen living in close interaction. It's about the need to consciously accept our own personal limitations in order to concentrate our energies on living a centered and fulfilled life. It is about the importance of doing that inner work in order to be able to be clear in how we interact with others. It is about coming into that purity of the heart, to act out of compassion, to be in alignment with the power of love. And as was true at the new moon, we still have this square with Jupiter supporting us in moving into new beliefs and having faith in this transition time that we're in. And we have this grand trine in water with Saturn in Pisces, Vesta in Scorpio, Mars in Cancer, supporting us to be grounded in that energy of compassion, Cancer, and acting from there, to hold those sacred fires of transformation, Scorpio, within us, to be grounded in compassion and in our ability to bring that into form in our lives, Saturn in Pisces. And as I said earlier, it is highly significant that we will be having these retrogrades with Venus and Mercury, supporting us in going inward, supporting us in being introspective, supporting us in doing the inner work that we need to do to emerge in a new way. It's particularly powerful that Venus in this retrograde is in its most powerful time in its cycle, where it's moving from being an evening star into its inferior conjunction with the sun to move into becoming a morning star. And as I've talked about in earlier videos, this is associated with the myth of Inanna, which is based on the Venus cycle. And in that story, this time in the Venus cycle is when Inanna is called into her journey into the underworld to be in her own transformational process, to find those lost aspects of herself and to face this unresolved issue in her relationship with her lost sister, Ereshkigal. But she goes through this time of death, rebirth, of transformation, to emerge in a new way as a morning star. And Venus will be conjunct the sun on March 23rd in the sign of Aries. And I see this as she's in that underworld time, facing herself, facing what's out of balance in her significant relationships, to then emerge on March 31st as a morning star in the sky in the sign of Pisces, to be able to be in that deep process of healing what she needs to heal in her relationship with herself, in her significant relationships, to emerge in Pisces in compassion in a new way, and to bring that energy of love and compassion into the world. So I really encourage you, as Venus is in her underworld experience from March 15th, the day after that full moon, through March 31st. She emerges in Pisces as a morning star a day after Neptune moves into Aries. There's so much change and transformation happening this month, but this part of the Venus cycle is so powerful in terms of it being a call for us to go inward, to be in this deep healing process, to see what's out of balance in our relationship with ourselves. Where do we carry that sense of fear or vulnerability? Where do we carry the wounds around our sense of self that cause us to be reactive or out of balance in our relationships? Where do we get caught in that need for power and control versus the power of love? How do we heal that in ourselves to open to the unconditional love of the cosmos, to come back into right relationship with ourselves, to be in right balance, right relationship with others? We can't come out of that energy of love in our relationships with others if we do not have that in our own experience of ourselves. So there's so much in this full moon time and in this underworld time of Venus in her inferior conjunction with the sun, saying, allow yourself space to go within, to reflect, to heal, to open to the love that's there for you, to emerge in a new way, and to be able to step more and more fully into the power of love and compassion, and away from reactivity, wounding, or the need for power and control. As we can do that work within ourselves, we can emanate that healing energy into the world. That has more power than the most extreme power over dynamics at play in the world right now. Let's align with true power, the power of love, and stand firm in truth and in the wisdom that those power over paradigms are ending and are dissolving. And we can choose not to collude with them, not to get caught in reactivity or fear of them, not to think that we have to fight with them. We can actually stand tall and true and say, enough is enough. This pattern is coming to an end, and we choose the power of love and truth and wisdom. We align our soul selves with higher consciousness, with cosmic consciousness. This month is calling us into that transformation, into that empowerment. And may we stand in that power of love with and for each other and emanate that power of love and truth and justice and wisdom into the world, in our words, in our actions, in our energy, in our way of being. May we feel and receive that love that's there for us, to be vessels of it in our world, in this turbulent time. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.